name is MacBain-McPike. I am doing a video today about overcoming issues of childhood abuse in adulthood with the healing modality of neurofeedback. Now, many people haven't heard of neurofeedback, and in a simplistic way of explaining it, it's a way of gently reprogramming your brainwaves to run in a proper, healthier manner if you are someone who is chemically imbalanced. And I found out at 49 that I was chemically imbalanced, and when I went for my first session of neurofeedback, my clinician was able to see that there was a part of my brain that was overactive and overfunctioning, and there was another part of my brain that was underactive and underfunctioning, which was causing my primary symptoms, long-term chronic symptoms of chronic anxiety and major depression. So this video, what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about my childhood, about what I endured, how I dealt with it through my adulthood, and the big difference once I finally got treatment with neurofeedback. And I truly believe that this treatment could benefit so many people, because there has to be other people who out there like me who went through traumatic things in childhood and dealt with it in, you know, the traditional ways in adulthood, but yet never could quite get to that place of peace and joy on a regular basis. Okay, so just a little bit about my childhood. You know, my mother passed away when I was 2. I was raised by my father and my stepmother. They were married when I was 4. And I was fortunate enough to have a childhood until I was 10. Until I was 10 years old. They didn't really pay much attention to me, but I had my friends and I played all the time, and so I had a childhood, and I'm so grateful that I got to be a kid at least till age of 10. And then everything changed for me, everything. My stepmother had my younger half-brother at 11, and at that time my father started sexually abusing me. And then, also coincidentally, my stepmother at that time started screaming at me at the drop of a hat, and giving me daily list of chores on yellow lined paper. So my childhood ended at 11. And for me to have lost both my parents at the same time, like until then, you know, I trusted them. You know, they never raised their voice at me. You know, there was just really nothing and then everything went upside down, you know. And so all of a sudden my father betrayed me, and my stepmother betrayed me, and my life became a living nightmare. I mean, I was so terrified, absolutely terrified, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to go to. I mean, I was a kid. I was just a little kid. And I endured that for 7 years, from age 11 to 18. I endured that, and it was just so unbearable, trying to, you know, avoid my father, trying to, you know, not do something to enrage my stepmother where she'd be, you know, and I'm talking just blood-curdling screaming at me, which to this day, if I hear someone scream, it just stops me in my tracks. I mean, that is just something that, oh, you just, you know, whoa, you just, no child should have to go through that, you know. So I had, you know, of course, in my adulthood, anxiety, major depression, addictions. I ate sugar from the moment I got up in the morning to the moment I went to bed at night. Insomnia, rage, I had issues of rage, you know, impulsiveness, I mean, you name it. And I dealt with these things in adulthood. You know, I started my first 12-step program at 19. I started therapy at 20. Started, you know, antidepressants at 23. I mean, I did all the things that you're supposed to do, you know, and they all brought me temporary relief. You know, I did between the therapy and the 12-step programs, and I did, you know, medication, and I tried acupuncture, I tried EMDR, I tried hypnotherapy. I was always working on myself. I mean, I really was. I always was trying to strive to, like, sever break free from my past, and I never could. You know, it just seemed like no matter how hard I tried, how hard I worked, I had moments of peace, absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes I'd have days of not thinking about what happened to me as a kid. But notoriously, it would cycle up. You know, it's like my childhood memories, things that happened to me as a child. It was like having a lifetime supply of if you could put them like a cow chooses a cud, like a cow will eat grass, and then it'll come back up as a cud and it'll just chew it for a while. It was like I had a lifetime supply of childhood abuse cuds that I would pull and I'd chew on it and I'd get all enraged and I would scream and I would yell because I felt so powerless as a kid. And then the other end of it was the agony. Like I would do the rage, and then notoriously at some point it would go back down into the agony and the despair and the crying. And it just seemed like it was a cycle. It was a continuous cycle. I was still doing this at 49. You know, I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I shouldn't be doing this at 49, and I've been working so hard to break free from this. Why aren't I free from this yet? And so I got diagnosed with ADHD and went on medication, which actually gave me a taste of what life could be. It gave me a taste of, calming down, because I realized that I truly felt like I ran on a motor all the time. You know, when I got the diagnosis of ADHD, it was like I had this image pop into my head, two different images. One was like a hummingbird, you know, because we know how fast hummingbirds flap their wings. The hummingbird, and then also this feeling of being in a car on the highway with no steering wheel and no brake, just flying down the highway. And it validated that I truly felt like I didn't have control in my life. I didn't have control over my body. I couldn't make it sleep. I didn't have control what came out of my mouth, because I would say inappropriate things, impulsive things. I couldn't control my thinking. You know, I would have, a lot of negative tapes, a lot of negative thoughts. And I couldn't control my emotions, because I would go to the extremes of my emotions. Whoa, I could flip into a rage like that, and then the next minute I'd be really nice. It was just never feeling like I truly had control. So I had a taste of that with the medication. I would say medication definitely gave me a strong taste. It helped me about 60-70%, helped calm those things down. But unfortunately, especially with Ritalin, it has to come out of your system at night so you can go to sleep. And I just remember every single night, around 10 o'clock, and I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I could feel, it was all low grade, I have to admit, it was low grade, but I would feel this sadness because some of my symptomology would start to come back up, and it was a constant reminder that it was temporary. It was always going to be temporary, and every night I was going to feel the sadness, And fortunately for me, 6 months after my diagnosis, a woman who was a client of mine, I had my own pet sitting business, who was a social worker, was telling me about this treatment called neurofeedback, and I was really curious, like, what is this? She goes, well, you need to come and check it out, because it truly can help you on, if your brain is running improperly, it can help to permanently get it back on track. So I was so excited. So my very first session, I went, and I remember, oh my gosh, I just remember feeling so relaxed. In my first session, what it was is she put electrodes on my scalp, which I never felt, and there's no electricity. There's no electricity or anything like that, but attached to my scalp, I was laying in a lazy boy with headphones, watching a video on TV. And my very first one, it was like I was a spaceship going through a tunnel, and the job was to keep myself in the tunnel and trying to go through. And I remember at the end of the session feeling so relaxed that it was like the best, it was like having a massage for my brain. I was just like, it was even better than the medication. It was better and it felt deeper. So I knew that this was the right thing. I knew it, and I was so excited. And so basically with neurofeedback, it's like my brain was balanced on that first session. but you keep going and repeating it to tell your brain, yes, this is what we want. This is the new pathway. We want you to stay on this pathway. And so the recommendation is between 20 and 40 sessions. And I knew on my 24th session that I was done, because I had no difference between when I started the session to the end of the session. I was relaxed through the whole thing. So I knew that my brain was balanced. I knew that 24 for me was the magic number and that I wouldn't need this anymore. And interesting enough, so I had my last session in December of 2014. And just recently, 18 months later, because I had my therapy in Maine and I moved to North Carolina last fall. This past May, I had a chance to go home to Maine. And at the time, I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't sleeping well, and I was panicking, thinking, oh, there's something wrong with my brain. I got to get some neurofeedback, So I called my clinician up, and she fit me in when I got up there. And interesting enough, I'm sitting there during the whole session, and nothing changed. I was as relaxed in the beginning, relaxed at the end, and I go, oh my gosh, it's not my brain. I'm still really relaxed. So what I did is, what it made me realize that it was environmental. So I came back from that and I quit my job, which was incredibly stressful, and I now have a less stressful job. I adjusted my diet, and I'm committed to exercising almost every day, and my sleep is back to normal. So it was so cool to see, yes, the beauty of neurofeedback is that you don't have to do it forever, you only have to do it until. And the changes are permanent, at least in my experience. And from what I heard, it's true for most people who do this. And the change can be for anything from a little bit to a lot, but anybody can get benefit from neurofeedback. That's the beauty, is that, and the difference now, and this is the good part that I wanted to share, and specifically, I had the OfTrauma method of neurofeedback. There's different types of neurofeedback out there. And it's interesting because just recently I was telling somebody I know down here who was asking me about it. So I did some research and I found 3 different people in the area that do the neurofeedback. And I called one woman up who said that, no, they don't do the OfTrauma method, they do something different. But she says they charge $975 to do this thing called brain mapping. And then on top of that, you're paying for your sessions after that. And I was thinking, holy crap, that's a lot of money. Because for me, in my experience with the OfTrauma method of neurofeedback, my clinician on the very first session took a picture of my brain, what was going on. She knew on the first session what had to be done, and I didn't have to pay that extra $1,000. I just paid for the individual sessions. So you can pay a good amount for neurofeedback, and you can pay a lot amount depending on what you do, what you try, whatever. For me, my neurofeedback, my therapist charges $150 an hour. At this point, sometimes it's covered by insurance, but mine wasn't. I didn't have insurance at the time. So she offered me a sliding scale, so I paid out of pocket a total of $1,200 for my neurofeedback, which if she hadn't done that for me, it would have been $3,600. But I can tell you that even if I had to spend $3,600, it would have been the best money I've ever spent, because having freedom, truly feeling free from the past is probably the best gift I will ever get in this lifetime, next to meeting my husband, right up there. But what I want to share now is the fact, so up until I did the neurofeedback and had some, true permanent changes, I realized that now that my brain's running more properly, running more balanced, I'm calmer, I no longer race, I feel like my life is in front of me, I can pause, I can stop and think before I make decisions, and the best thing is that when I look back on my childhood now, it's like I'm watching a movie with no sound. I'm seeing myself as a younger child, and I'm looking at it from my adult. And I don't feel the rage and the agony when I look back on my childhood now. I can see, if I really want to stay there and really try to go in there, it's like I can feel some sadness and I can feel some anger at times. but it's almost like it's not me. It's like that was the child in me, that happened to me, but I don't live there anymore. And that's the beauty, because when you think about it, balance is, the energy of balance is more about being rooted in the energy of love. And the energy of rage and agony and all that is more rooted in fear, which is more rooted in imbalance. So, you know, I don't, I just don't go there. I mean, I don't know how to explain that. Like, I don't live there anymore. Like, the energy of balance, it's kind of like being on a really, really slow-moving river. So I'm now going this way, and this feels really good. And I like this feeling of being kind of focused forward, thinking about where I'm going, where before, it's almost like before I spent 50% of my time looking back. 50% looking back. And now I would say I spend about 5 to 10%. If I really want to, but I don't want to. I don't need to. Like, you know, when you're rooted in joy, you're rooted in peace, it's like I'm focused this way now. You know, that all happened to me when I was in an imbalanced place, when I was filled with fear and anxiety and chaos. And it's like I don't live there anymore, you know? I mean, I haven't had, and the honest to God truth, I haven't had an ounce of rage in years. I can truly say years of my life since now I get angry, absolutely, and I feel sadness, but I haven't had rage and agony in years, you know. And it really goes to show that balance is about having a wheel of emotions, a wheel of feelings, you know, and there's a little pie slot for everything, and they cycle up, you're feeling, and they go on. You know, they don't stay, nothing's stuck anymore. I'm not stuck in any one emotion. I'm not stuck in the past. I'm not stuck anymore. Because it's almost like before I lived a circular life, and there was no door, there was no out, it was circular. And now I live a linear life where things flow, and they continue to flow. And what's really cool is that, you know, I'm still human. And, you know, sometimes somebody will do something that, which I know now, I can get triggered. I mean, I'm human. Somebody will do something that reminds me of my stepmother, which is either very controlling or very dominating, whatever, and I can feel a little angry, a little annoyed. But the beauty is that I just don't hold on to that anymore, you know? And it's like, I'll acknowledge it, and then I'll go, that person triggered me. That person was acting like my stepmother, and I felt annoyed in the moment, you know, and then I'll think about it later and I go, oh. And I'm able to separate the behavior from the person. See, before, when anyone reminded me of my father or my stepmother, I would just hate them, or, you know, like the whole person. And now, instead, I can separate the behavior from the person. You know, and I actually had 2 interesting things happen recently at my job, which was so cool to really see the difference in action. I had someone who was really trying to dominate me, and one day, I mean, she'd done this quite a few times, and one day I just lashed out at her, you know, and it wasn't appropriate. I first want to say it wasn't appropriate, but I was really emotional that day. I'd gotten some bad news, and I was, you know, kind of off a little bit, and I snapped at her really, and I told her, you know, to stop trying to dominate me. So, but I had hurt her feelings. I mean, because she didn't know that's what she was doing. So the next time I saw her, when I worked with her, I apologized, because I thought about it. I go, it's not her. I really like her. It was her behavior that was triggering me. And I was able to realize that, you know, what I did wasn't appropriate. I don't believe that lashing out at people is appropriate. You know, I just don't. So it was so neat to be able to go, you know, I'm really sorry that I lashed out at you. I got some bad news, and I took it out on you, and I'm truly sorry. You know, and she immediately softened right up and said, that's okay, I get it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, after that, like, I had that awareness to just understand that that's just who she is, and it can trigger me, but now that I have the awareness, I'm just, you know, protect myself and just go, it's okay, it's not about me, you know? And it's so cool. That's the difference now. Because before, if someone did, I'd be like, I hate that person. Who are they to tell me what to do? Rah, rah, rah. And then I would go on and go on and go on and vent it to whoever would listen to me forever. You know, I would never let go of things. grievances. I would just carry around grievances like they were a bag of gold coins. If someone truly, I never got past it. And that's the beauty with being more imbalanced. It's like you realize that we're all human, and people are going to do things, you know, but I don't have to carry that. You know, because even after that happened, before I had a chance to apologize to her, and I was kind of holding on to it, it was almost like I could still feel myself in the flow. And when you're in the flow, you got to let go of things, because you can't be in two places at once. You can't hold on to things and be moving at the same time, you know? So it was like, I love this now, because I just choose to let go. And if things happen, I realize I have a choice. Either I talk to them about it, or I just let it go. You know, and a lot of times I'll just let things go, because that's my only two choices. I either talk about it and tell someone how I was feeling about something, or I just choose to let it go and not carry it. You know, I mean, so that's the freedom, you know? And so I guess, you know, my message is really about for people to know more about this treatment, and to realize that the brain is incredibly powerful, and the brain has the ability to change at no matter what age. I mean, I didn't do this treatment until 49, you know, so I had 49, you know, not 49 years, but 39 years of being off and being, you know, in the circle. And it's funny, because all through my adult life, I always felt like I was treading water, and this truly validates that. Like I was treading water, wasn't really going anywhere, and that the antidepressant that I took for 23 years was the life preserver around me that kept me from drowning. And that's really all it did, because it didn't address the true problem that was going on. And it felt like with the neurofeedback, I got out of the water, I'm on land, and I'm living, and I'm moving, and I'm doing things. You know, it's just, it's freedom, you know, and that's what that's what, you know, neurofeedback gave me. So with that, I want to show you two things. I published 2 books. My first one was The Hummingbird Effect, going 65 miles an hour, 25/7, because I used to think I was going so fast I was into the next day every day. And then my second book is Healing Your Life with Neurofeedback, because I wrote a book while I was still in treatment, and then I wrote a book after I finished treatment, because I wanted to be able to say, you know, I'm done with treatment, and the effects are lasting. And I can honestly say they're definitely lasting, and I don't have to go back, which is great. And this, especially this book, it's a little bit about my story, a little bit about symptomology and things that I picked up, and then it's also a question and answer with Irene Green Murphy, who is a social worker in Maine who has been using this treatment for years in her practice, and what she's learned and observed. And then also a chapter on the OfTrauma method of neurofeedback, a little bit more about what it is and what it can do, and just to try to, you know, give a well-rounded, balanced view of neurofeedback. So I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.